Hello peeps, so welcome along to part 5 of my 5TB Masters build. This one's going to be all the old computer systems, the Commodore 64, Amiga, ZX Spectrum, the Sharp X68000 and the MSX. So I didn't want to do separate videos for all these computer systems, obviously not everybody's cup of tea. And also they don't take much configuring at all, you don't have to do much with these, you basically just leave them as they are. So I decided to put them all on one video. So I'm going to be shorting all the collections, showing how to scrape so you can find all the artwork, some little tips and tricks for scraping. I'll be showing you the little bit of configuration that you might want to do, and there'll also be some general tips and tricks as always, along with a touch of gameplay. See if you can throw me a like and maybe a subscription if you haven't already done so. We're getting closer to the 1,000 subs, slowly but surely, we'll get there one day. So as I said, I'll be shortening these down. I'll be filtering all the collections. Basically, I'm going to make more of a playable, better looking collection. Don't want loads of multi-discs all over the place. Don't want thousands of ROMs of games that probably people will never play. So I'm going to remove a load of the card games, the puzzle games and all that sort of stuff. But basically, I'm going to be leaving all the classics wherever possible. So let's get cracked on, peeps. Right, so I've stuck my collections in a little folder here, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to copy them over. Now the Amiga, as you can see, it's just zip files. The Amstrad, also zip files. Now the Commodore 64 has a few different types of files it can use. So you can see we've got the D64, T64, and obviously the zip files work on there too. The MSX is zip files again. The Sharp X68000, zip files. As we go down, you see I've created some M.3U files here, but I'm pretty sure they don't work on there. They do on certain systems. There's also some DIM files here as well. And then the Spectrum again, zip files again. So I'm going to copy the games, right click, copy. I'm going to go into my Retrobat build, Retrobat, ROMs, and then just paste them. And now I'll turbo boost it. So now all the games are copied over, we'll boot up Retrobat. So basically, as you can see, the Amiga hasn't got any artwork. Commodore 64's got no artwork, and I'll show you why that is in a second for those who like to copy stuff over. The Amstrad CPC's got all the artwork. The Spectrum, obviously I've took that out because I'm going to show you how to scrape it. And the Sharp X68000 has all the artwork too. So now if we go into Spectrum, press back, put down to your scraper. I'll be using Screen Scraper. Game's missing any media. Leave that settings. We're going to scrape now, and I'm going to give it a turbo boost. So all the games are scraped now. And what we're going to do is press B on the controller to go back. Press the back on the controller. Go to game settings, update games list. Click yes, and all the artwork will be loaded up. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to try and find any artwork. Like this here, the Avalon. I'm going to scrape it, and obviously as you can see here, one of the other scrapers has found the A, which is basically the logo. The A text file is the logo, so then we'll load that and put it on. Also, Batman here. If we're going to edit games date metadata, you can see that this is the Batman, if you read at the top, the Batman Cape Crusader Part 1. As both the Batman files have both got the same artwork, we'll scrape it. And it's going to find the Batman Part 1, A Bird in the Hand. And then we'll click the other one. As you can see, that's the Cape Crusader Part 2, A Fate Worse Than Death. So we'll scrape that. sometimes, as you've seen that it took ages to scrape, sometimes it does that. I speeded that up. But there's the part 2. We'll scrape that and save it. And now I'm just going to go down the old games list, find any artwork that's missing like them, if I can, if possible. Sometimes I don't have them, obviously. I'll remove any repeat games. So I'll stop filming now and just finish up the system. So as I said, the systems that didn't have all the artwork linked to it, basically you've got a games list file, and I hadn't copied it over. So basically, when you add the games to any system, it will create a games list file, which will just be a list of all the games that you've added. Now, when you scrape them, it also adds the information for all the artwork, and it links it to all the games which you found. So basically, even if you have all the artwork in a certain system, we'll say the Amiga, for example, you've got all the games in, you've got your games list file, but then you copy all the artwork over after, it won't recognise them because you literally have to scrape them, and it has to basically configure it and tell it where the art files are. And when I copied over the games, I didn't copy them over. So basically, I'm going to put my 8TB Retrobat drive in, and I'm going to copy the games list file over from them. So obviously, all the artwork is already associated to all the games on that drive. So there's my 8TB drive. We'll go into the Retrobat folder, ROMs, down to Amiga 1200. And now the easiest way to find it, if you just click your file type here, it will put the games list file at the bottom. So we're going to copy that, go back into the Retrobat drive, ROMs, down to the Amiga 1200, and paste it in. Now it's going to ask you to copy over because it's obviously already created one when you put the games in. So let's put yes, we'll replace that. So now we'll reboot Retrobat. We'll come into the Commodore 64 folder, and as you can see, most of the artwork's there. This is a different collection in here to mine 8TB Retrobat build. It's the one that I put on my little Amiga handheld. So obviously some of these games are missing artwork. Also, another thing I didn't realise, this Commodore 64 collection on my Retrobat build is really uncompatible. So on this video, it gave me a bit of a kick up my arse, as I didn't even realise that there was a lot of games in there that didn't work. So I've gone in, deleted a load of games. I put different ROMs in, I put some different files in, I put some working ROMs in, and removed a lot of the old ones that I didn't even know wasn't working. It's the same collection I use in my Batacera build, and it runs fine on that. Most of the games work what I've clicked on. A lot of the games, the same games that I click on in this collection wasn't working. I didn't even realise. So I'll quickly scrape the games that are from my Amiga build, and the artwork's not there basically. So we'll press back or select on your controller, whichever controller you're using. Obviously back Xbox, and select is your PlayStation style controller. We'll go down to the scraper again as we did before. Scrape now, and it will find whatever artwork I've got missing. Press the turbo boost button. And again, we'll come back out, we'll update as games lists, and they should all be loaded up. So while scrolling down here, I noticed this bat here is missing the logo, and I also know the actual game because I used to have it. I believe I had it on the Spectrum. I had full stops after each letter, so that's probably why it's not finding the artwork. So I'm going to come down, check all three of the scrapers, and none of them are going to have any artwork for it. So I'll go down to input, and I'm going to put a full stop, so I'm going to put B.A.T. It's just another thing, if you're scraping and you try scraping a game and it doesn't find it, you know, you try some different things, try one word out of the title and stuff like that, it's more likely of finding it. As you can see here, this found it, so we'll go with this one that's got the logo, and there you go. Just all a case of neatening the old system up basically. So we'll scroll down to Lemmings, and as you can see, there's 3 different Lemmings. They're all the same game. Hold the A button. If you go to the Edit Game Metadata, at the top under where it says Edit Metadata, Lemmings USA Disc 1 Side A. Now if we click on the second one, you can see it's Lemmings USA Disc 1 Side B. And this one is the Disc 2. So basically it's just a multi-disc game. I want to hide the second and third disc, and I'm going to keep the first disc. So we'll go down to Edit Games Metadata, push up a few times, go up to where it says Hidden, tick that, go back, click save. But as you can see, once you do that, it chucks you right back to the start of the list, which is a pain in the arse if you've got loads to do. So the way to go about it is press your back button. We're going to go to L again, where we was, Lemmings. And as you can see, the one's hidden now. So we press this back button again, go down to View Customization, Show Hidden Files, and we're going to change this to Yes. Now as I come back out, basically all three of them are back there. But once I go into this one now, as you can see, this is the one that I did before. It's showing hidden. Now we're going to go into this one and click hidden. Because we've clicked yes to viewing the hidden files, it's not going to go back to the start, and it saves you so much time. So again, same with the little computer people. This one's side B. One thing to note here, it's not always in order. It doesn't mean that the top one's not always the first disc or first tape. So make sure you click them and edit them and just check before. Otherwise you might be adding the first disc and basically the game won't load them. And again, main hit mansion, same again. But just double check this, edit games metadata. Side B will hide the side B. So I'll finish off doing this off camera. And once it's done, we'll press back button, we'll go down to the view customization again, and we'll change the hidden files to auto or no. Basically, it's automatically set to no, so. And as you can see now, I'll scroll back up, all three of them games that we changed are just shown on tape. Moving on to the Amiga, I'm just going to do the same. I'm just going to go down, I'm going to scrape logos that are missing, I'm going to delete any duplicate games and just basically do a bit of tidying up. Now as I go down, I noticed Out of This World game here, which basically in the UK was called Another World. It was never called Out of This World. I'll just check it, I'll go into the edit metadata and I can see they're both the same version of the game, the version 2.4. I remember this game as Another World. I absolutely love this game, so what I'll do is I was going to delete the game, but I'll load it up first to make sure that it loads obviously before I delete it. So I'll load in the game up again as I've shown before. Because I'm using a 2560 by 1440 monitor, it interferes with the resolution, so basically you come into the video mode and change it to 1920 by 1080. Later on in the video I do what I should have done from the start basically, and I change it on the old system. So we'll come back out and basically reload the game, and as you can see it loads up this time. It asks for a protection code there. Google's your best friend for anybody wanting to know them. But like I say, I know this game as Another World, so that's what I want it to be under on my system. So I'm going to scrape it. As you can see, Games Database calls it Another World, and I'm going to add that to it. It hasn't changed the logo basically. It's still saying Out of This World on the logo. Now we'll come back up to the other one. I'm just going to delete this because it's a duplicate game. And then we'll carry on. Down to Stunt Car Racer or Stunt Track Racer, whatever you want to call it. I was called it Stunt Car Racer. This is one of my favourite games on Amiga. Check this, version 1.3. And this one's the TNT version. They're both showing a TNT logo. So I'll scrape the standard one. And again, it's showing the TNT logo, which is the wrong logo. Try that one as well. Again, still the TNT logo. Some people might be fine with that, but it's one of my favourite games, so I just want it right. I want to be able to determine which is different. I don't want people to think it's a duplicate game. So one thing you can do, I know full well it was on the Commodore 64. I also know full well it was on the Spectrum, amongst other systems. So we'll come down to the Spectrum. I'm going to make sure the logo's right. It's there, Stunt Car Racer without the TNT on, so I'm going to use that logo in my Amiga. Now I'm just going to check that the logo's called what it is, which is Stunt Car Racer Europe Marquee. Marquee is basically your logos. Now I'm going to come back into the Amiga. Back. I'm going to go into the edit metadata. I'm going to go down to the logo. I'm going to scroll right down to the bottom. And then when we get down to the bottom, press down twice more till you come to the folder with the 2 dots. Click that, click it again, push up twice to go to ZX Spectrum, click on the images, will go up because it'll be quicker to get to the game starting with the letter S. Stunt Car Racer, there it is, the Europe marquee. Basically the thumb's the box, the image is the background. So we're going to change that, save changes, and it's going to say some files are linked, so we just click no there. And as you can see, it's changed the logo, basically just about smarting it up. Also, this is the TNT version, it's just called Stunt Track Racer. So I'm going to put a full colon in, and I'm going to add TNT on the end, just so you can basically determine it's a different game. So now another thing I want to do here, I want to have all my Lemmings games next to each other. So as you can see here, we've got a Lemmings game at the bottom here called Christmas Lemmings 1991. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come in to the edit game metadata again, and I'm going to rename it. I'm going to delete the Christmas out of it, and I'm going to add Christmas after the Lemmings. So basically it's going to put all my Lemmings games next to each other. I don't want them scattered out all over the place. And there we go, it's put it in with where the other Lemmings games are. Also, I know there's Oh No More Lemmings, and again I want that with all my Lemmings games. So we're going to where it says Oh No More Lemmings. I'm going to rename this Lemmings Oh No More, basically, which might sound a bit stupid, but I just prefer them all together myself. Again, this is all personal preference. It's just showing you some little tips and tricks of what I do to make it, in my eyes, a better looking system. Again, we'll come back out, we'll save it, and then all our Lemmings games are together. Lemmings, Lemmings 2, Oh No More Lemmings, and the Christmas Lemmings. So we'll move on to MSX 1, which has basically got some MSX 2 games as well. I don't believe they're all the MSX games. And like I said, basically I'm just going to do the same with this, but I'm going to go down and I'm also going to delete a load of card games, Miyong games, puzzle games, games that basically don't look playable. There's a lot of Japanese sort of strategy games in here as well that obviously aren't going to be playable because you're not going to be able to understand the language. So obviously I'm going to do this off camera. I'm not going to bore you and make you watch all that. The Sharp X6800, 68,000, whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to do exactly the same in here. I'm going to go down and I'm just going to pretty it up. I'm going to delete a load of crappy games and I'm going to find any artwork and stuff. Again, I'm going to cut the video here. So moving on to the configuration, we're going to start with Spectrum. We're going to press the back button. So basically, I'm just going to leave all the settings here on auto. Most of the computer systems basically have the same options. They're the RetroArch options, basically. Pretty much don't have to do anything to them. The emulator we're using will be Liberto Fuse. There's only 2 different ones for the Spectrum. So quick little tips to help you set your joystick up. So if you press your hotkey button and your B button or circle on the PlayStation controller, it's going to take you into your RetroArch menu. Now while you're in the RetroArch menu, if you go down to the bottom to the control section, Port 1 controls, and then in the device type is all the different types of controllers that a Spectrum uses. I'm going to click on Kempston because it was quite a popular one. We're going to go into Manage Remap Files and we're going to go down to Save Core Remap File, not the game, because basically now this will set the Kempston joystick for every game in the Spectrum. Sometimes you're going to have to change that, but as a standard we'll use it as a Kempston. And now if we come back out, pressing back or select will bring up your virtual keyboard. If you press the 4, as it's saying on the screen, for the Kempston joystick, and it'll start the game with the Kempston joystick. Look at the graphics. Also with Paperboy here, as you see at the bottom, it says 0 to start and 1 is to select your controller. So we'll get the virtual keyboard back up again, press 1. Obviously you can use a normal keyboard. This is just basically if you haven't got a keyboard connected up. And then 0 to start. Jet Set Willy next is going to be asking for this code. And again, Google's going to be your best friend here for any old codes that you might need for any retro games. This one tends to be the same every time it loads up. It'll ask you for the code for G4. So we'll bring up as virtual keyboard and type in the code, which is 1231. Then we'll go back down on the virtual keyboard, press enter, and we'll load up. Head over reels next. And again, press enter to select option, press any key to move the cursor. You can do this with your keyboard. So we'll tap as virtual keyboard up, press enter because it's already selected the Kempston joystick. Then we'll go in and press enter again to start the game. Like I say, if you've got a normal keyboard, then you can just do all this on a normal keyboard. Basically, this is for those who don't want a keyboard connected to the system. You can use the virtual keyboard that's included with the emulator. Now onto Bomb Jack. Again, P for Kempston. We'll press that. Then 1 to start the game. So on to Treasure Island Dizzy. Again, K for Kempston to start the game. Virtual keyboard, we'll go down to K. The joystick will already be working. So we'll move on to the Amstrad now with the config. Advanced system options. The emulator is going to be the CAP32 Liberto core for RetroArch. Shader set is going to be all scan lines and stuff like that. I never put them on. Personal preference there. It doesn't harm you to try them. Going to decorations again. Down to default unglaze. That's always going to be the borders for the system, what you're configuring. Game aspect ratio again. We're going to leave that as it is. Pixel perfect. Basically, these are the same options on all these old computers. They're all like for RetroArch, not for the actual emulator itself sort of thing. But basically, pixel perfect and the video cores like your OpenGL and DirectX, well, I just leave everything auto. I tried the pixel perfect and to be honest, I couldn't see a blind bit of difference in them. The only thing you have got at the bottom there is your edit pad to key profile. Basically, if you know certain keys for a game and it's not working with your joystick, you can come in here and you can set a pad to key profile up for each individual game, or you can set it up for your system. So again, we'll boot a game up on the Amstrad CPC. The start button and the blue X button on the Xbox controller brings up the virtual keyboard. And as we're playing this, as you can see on the James Bond game here, it's going to ask you to press any key. So start and blue X button, we'll just press the H key here, and it's going to continue on and load the game up. And we'll go into this RetroArch menu again, which on my system is my Xbox button and B. Again, you can take a quick look in the options. Not going to be much, just leave them as they are. I basically just leave all these on auto. I've not come up with any issues yet on these old systems. Again, you can come down to your controller, go into your port 1 control, and you can edit your joystick if there's certain buttons that you want to do a certain thing. So we'll move on to some gameplay now. I ain't going to mess about like I did with the Spectrum because the joystick's automatically set up for everything on this. this one to the Commodore 64, and as you can see the emulators, the stacks of them. I leave it just on auto, which is the Vice X64. Some may load. If there's certain games that don't load, you might find that one of the different cores will make them work, but I tried a few of the games that didn't work. I tried a few of the different cores and it didn't make a blind bit of difference. Again, with this, all the settings are just kept on auto. So again, we'll boot the game up. Again, with the Commodore 64, the back or select button brings up your virtual keyboard. And if you see the button here, the Joy P button on the right hand side under the function keys, if you've got a game that isn't working with your joystick, if you go and click that, it'll turn your joystick on. Not for every game, but it will work with a lot of games that aren't working with a joystick. So again, we'll go into this RetroArch menu, come down to the controls. Again, you can come in here and change anything you want. You can put it on the joystick here so it's not on the retro pad. If there's a certain game that's not working with your joystick, just press that Joy P button and it tends to sort it out quite a lot of times. Now moving on to the Amiga. Then we'll load a game up. Same again here with the back button or select button, brings up the virtual keyboard. And as you can see here, this J/M button will change your joystick and mouse control. You'll tend to find you don't need to press that, the joysticks just work on it basically. We'll go into his RetroArch menu again. There's a lot of different options in here. Again, basically I leave everything as standard again with this system. I'm never needed to not leave it as standard, so the games work, the games load, they play fine. The joystick works, so I don't never need to mess about basically. If anything, you could come in if you find that the mouse speed is a bit fast on certain games like Lemmings or Cannon Fodder or something like that, you could probably come in and just turn the sensitivity down a little bit. Also, while we're in here, we'll go down to this disk control now. This works at every system basically. If you've got a multi-disc game, if you go down to disk control and click on load new disk, all your different games will be in here. So if it is a multi-disc game, you can change the disc basically in here. And like I say, that works at all the systems. So on to the MSX. Like I said before, I believe there's some MSX2 games in here as well, it's not just the one. So the emulator we're using is the Liberto Blue MSX. Again, all the other settings are just auto. We'll take a look in the RetroArch menu again. You see there's very little options in this. You don't need them. The games just play fine as they are. Again, you can come into your controls and change anything you want to change, personal preference, but so finally we'll move on to the Sharp X68000. Again, if we come down to advanced system options, I changed nothing in here again. There's just no point. For this system, you can't choose any of the emulators, it's basically just the one that runs them. So yeah, just a quick final word. Like I said in the video, all this is personal preference. I like my system to look as good as they can. I like them to be as compatible as they can. I don't like duplicate games in there. I'm a firm believer that the better they look, the more wow factor you get out of your system, and the more satisfying it is when you go through it all. So I'm going to do the same with a couple other systems, like the arcade. I'll put all the arcade systems in one go, make that one video. And also like all the handhelds, I'll put all the handhelds in, all the earlier handhelds. I won't put the PSP in, I'm going to do a separate video for that. And also when I finish, I'm going to do individual videos for all the systems that I've done, so people can use it as like a reference point to look at all the games that's in there. Like I said, the Commodore 64 collection now is totally different to what it started off. I removed a lot of broken ROMs in there, which I didn't know wasn't working. I've added different ROMs. The collection actually ended up a little bit bigger in the end, but it's only around about 200 games still. Anyway, I'll wrap this video up here now. Thanks for watching, and until next time, peeps.